are based on my experiences growing up in the South. And if you wanted to know what it was like to grow up in the South, for me, it was very much like Kathy's presentation about termites. That's what it felt like to grow up in the moral confusion of the South. Now, tonight we're talking about the apocalypse as the overarching theme. And if apocalypse is the ultimate death of something so that something new can emerge, I'm going to argue that the South that I grew up in Virginia, has been in an apocalyptic conflict for about 400 years. You guys hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much with the bringing of slavery as an institution to this part of the world. That's an important backdrop to the pieces that I'm going to read. I think apocalypse is something that applies to us individually, but it also applies to us culturally. And so when I'm talking about the apocalyptic quality of the South, I'm talking about things like the discussion, if you guys have been following this for the last 3 years, should we have Confederate war memorials? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
This is a big deal in Virginia, believe me, and other places in the South. Also renegotiating things like affirmative action. If you guys remember this, which is a part of the Civil Rights Act. Should we have people of color representing 16% of the employees that are working for public institutions? And then, of course, there's the Black Lives Matter movement, which is a true expression of that apocalyptic struggle for, I believe, good versus evil, oppression versus freedom, etc. So, now I usually don't give this kind of introduction to my poems, but for tonight, I think this is important. One thing I do want to mention, if you don't know, is that the institution of slavery was pretty much began here in this part of the world because of tobacco and the labor crisis that tobacco created. And that was the solution for the labor problem. So, just keep that in mind as I read my poems. This first one is called One of Those Times. Traffic gives my father and myself a moment at the red light, beside a graveyard full of Confederate soldiers. A song is played on the radio, and I turn it up. My father listens, disappointed there is only one verse and a bridge, his grievance against popular music. Beside us, cars line up beside the cemetery walls that are covered in thick ivy. Traffic has a way of saying what time it is without being specific, and this is one of those times. The interior of the car is smoky. The upholstery is stuffed and worn like two lazy boy chairs as we both flick ashes off of our cigarettes into the street. I am 17 years old and just lost my girlfriend to my best friend. My father just lost his girlfriend to the lead singer in his country band. We sit in the blue Pontiac provided by the J.R. Reynolds Tobacco Company, where my father works. The company is a father figure to both of us. The light changes and we drive past the statue of a Confederate soldier who, like us, is famously and forever on the wrong side of everything. Speaking of affirmative action, this next poem is about a very dynamic and spirited black school teacher that I had when I was in elementary school. And it's based on the song Mrs. Robinson, if you guys know that, by Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh, yeah.
Cuckoo, choo, hey, 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 whoa, whoa, whoa. Joe DiMaggio is referenced there. You'll recognize this. But this is called The Other Mrs. Robinson. It was a tough school, even for third graders. So she rose each morning like water from a drain to greet her children at the classroom door. Cuckoo Pachoo. This Mrs. Robinson was a bulletin board of polyester pants with pot roast arms still warm from the oven. Instead of cupcakes, she made grammar packets and served them cold each morning. She was like Joe DiMaggio with a callus on her thumb from swinging at curveballs tossed to her from the back of the classroom. But only on the first day, from children who did not know her very well. Mostly animal sounds and the N-word. Mrs. Robinson was quick to help others help themselves. She picked those children up by their ears on the second day until their feet left the ground, as if to embody the demonstrative pronoun, "This is my classroom, not yours." After that, it was all proper nouns capitalized, subject-verb agreement in complete sentences, and no double negatives. Except for the two boys with sore ears who never came back to her classroom. Whoa, 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 hey, hey, hey. I wonder what language they learned to speak. Okay, this last original poem, boy, it might take me most of the evening to fully explain this. So I want to come up with the cliff notes here. Let's just say the title is called 8 Martin Luther King Boulevard. And this is referring to an address, but it's also referring to a city bus. If you ever see the screens on the front of the city bus. The grammarian that is referred to in this poem is Aristotle, who invented grammar. I don't know if you guys knew that, but invented it as a way of understanding the world, of reading reality from the level of language. So to understand this poem, just imagine me and Aristotle hanging out in the inner city together. Okay? That's what's really happening. Like maybe in Atlanta, somewhere like that. Rub the sleep from your eyes, grammarian. Join me in the effort to read this bus stop at 6 o'clock in the morning as if it were a lesson from Garner's Modern English. Never mind the smell of urine in French fries or the pallor of dawn negating a street lamp. I'll drop a coin into your cup if you parcel this bench into 7 parts of speech, and then teach me like a child to understand the labor of coming into being here. With only a bus pass, I've already discovered proper nouns, a big gulp from Circle K, a Holy Bible, and a Gucci handbag. More significantly, I uncover the presence of Jehovah from a woman of color who sits with me in this sentence, on this bench. Also a proper noun, and a relative pronoun, vulnerable to adjectives and adverbs that peck around her ankles like pigeons from a different century. She looks like a stained glass window shining into the drab of Saturday morning traffic on her way to Kingdom Hall. Beside me, among me, around me, near me, beyond me, even just here with me, prepositions shrink her identity, fictionalize her life as if she were a myth, a white lie I told myself, and now I'm telling you. That was in honor of the demonstrations for George Floyd the summer of 2020. I want to end with a wonderful poem that I did not write. The author of this poem is in the audience, and so listen. Poets don't like the way other poets read their poems. I know that already. So I'll just say that as a disclaimer. This is by Lauren Rain, and it's in a wonderful book she lent to me called Aphrodite in Brooklyn. And there's a poem that I found in here. It's the kind of poem that, I would discover in a book when I was a teenager that made me fall in love with poetry. And it is called The Art Critic, which is an archetype that I'm hesitant to release right here since we're in the middle of all of our art. But the conceit of the poem is beautiful, that there is no difference between the life that we are living and the work that we are creating, or the art that we are creating. So I'll end with this. It's called The Art Critic. This life, call it tentatively mine, will at its end be my dubious masterpiece. In some dusty acacic gallery, maybe one in a series. I'll call them Studies in Blue and Red. Blue for capillaries and the sky too vast to consider. Red for the tangible heart. I leave it to the critic to analyze technique, style, and historic relevance. If I don't receive a glowing review, I pray at least my work will be original. Thank you.